My next one is a deep cut film. Uh, I don't know why this film didn't get more notoriety. It was, like May came out, and
Yeah.
May was it kind of went under the radar, but then it got cult status. This came out a year after May, and I always felt like this was like a gender swapped version of May.
Yeah.
Especially with the ending and the way it is. It's like May is a guy, May is a girl, and she's looking for friends, and as a result, and she's got this weird relationship with this doll in the glass, and she, in the glass box, and she wants to make friends, and she realizes that nobody's perfect, so she's going to make friends. Make your own friends. So she's going to take all her favorite parts of people and chop them up and turn them into a new friend. You know. Uh, Love Object is the male version of this, where it is a lonely guy who's looking for love, and he finds he's a weird, awkward guy who works in an office, and to exempl to elucidate, there's a word.
Don't know that one.
You know, to elucidate just how boring and monotonous of a person and his life he is. He's a copywriter who works in a technical, I had to write this one down so I got it, technical operations manual publishing company. So he literally writes user manuals.
It's like the most dull job in the world.
Yes, exactly. And he's the top guy in the company. He's the best at the job.
Amazing.
Yeah. So the others so some of the people that he works with, they put a postcard on his desk, and it's a picture of a woman saying, and it's like, Nikki, call me for a good time. And he realizes, and it's kind of a joke, but not in that mean spirited way. Like, let's make it fun of the guy. It's in that way of, it's in that bro way of, hey, look at this, it's a sex doll, check this out. I bet he's not going to know the difference kind of thing. And that's literally what they do. They put it on his desk, and while they're kind of joking about it, and the other two guys go to the website and everything, he's looking at this, and you can see something's clicking for him. He becomes enamored with the idea of a customizable sex doll. Now, this was, I think, 2003.
I saw this for the first time with you. I remember when you bought this and we watched it vividly. Dude, I was like, what is this?
Still have it.
Same
this is
DVD.
Amazing. Yep.
Hard movie to find.
There's no Blu-ray list. This is
very difficult movie to find.
Yeah. So you can see him kind of becoming enamored with this idea. And I said, this was 2003. And this was around the time that like real dolls were in the 90s, but technology got better and these things just got better with time. And that was kind of what happened here. So this is that's really what it is, where the dolls really start looking realistic. This thing's even got an arm. It's got a spring-loaded arm action, and then they joke about. So
spring-loaded arm.
Yeah.
I wonder what he was doing with that.
So he orders one of these dolls, and he orders, it's a very pretty girl, and he's a little weirded out by it at first, but as soon as he gets it, first thing he does, all right, he throws it on the bed, and all right, he's gonna have his way with it. And then he tries to return it because he's immediately ashamed of himself. Then he discovers the user manual, and the user's manual is not much of a user's manual. It's because come on, what are you gonna do?
But you can figure it out.
It's a CD, and on this CD, it's like an Encarta CD almost.
Yeah.
And it gives you suggestions of things to do. Play her own music, give her own, basically how to anthropomorphize this doll and how to make her more real to you. At the same time, he gets his big manual that he's got to write at work, and the boss, played by Rip Torn.
Great casting.
And by the way, I don't know, did I say that this guy is Desmond Harrington?
Yeah, was he in Wrong Turn?
Yes, yeah. Wrong Turn, Soul Survivors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, he gets his big job, and Rip Torn assigns him a temp worker to be his assistant because we can't risk that you're going to miss this deadline. So he gives it, and he starts to kind of like her a little bit, and because he's such a weird, shy guy, he decides he's going to make the doll more like her. So he finds out little things about her, what type of music she likes, the type of clothes that she wears, her nail polish, and he makes the doll look more and more like her. Okay. Um, Soon she gives she has the girl, not the doll, the girl has an interest in him. So he starts talking to her, as you would say today. Back then, they're kind of starting to date. And now the doll becomes jealous. Um, the thing about this movie is you never really know whether the doll is actually doing it or if he's just seeing
Yeah.
it. There's
Yeah.
no point in the movie where you see the doll move. But it's also they also do a very good job of making it seem like the doll moves when he's not around.
There's some great jump scares where he like gets up and the doll's just sitting up looking at him,
Yes.
and he's like, "Oh shit."
Yes. So the doll becomes jealous and possessive of him. He has one-sided arguments with the doll. The doll fights back and the doll fights back with him and forces him to become its sex slave. Like there is literally parts where there's a door closed and you're hearing him be whipped inside the room and he's yelping and everything, and he's pleading with the doll because the doll has threatened him. And again, we have not heard this, but he has heard it. The doll has threatened him that if he does not do what the doll says, that the doll will tell Lisa about the two of them. No, we can't have this. Yeah. He argues with her, he pleads with her, and he fights the doll. One day he's so angry, he starts choking and he stabs the doll. And that's when part of him starts to click and he realizes that this is just a doll,
Yeah.
but it's still real. Now I say movie's 20 years old. I wish more people had seen it. I'd like to not spoil this, but I'm sorry, it's 20 years old.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll get people to finally watch this movie. He chops the doll up in his bathtub as if it's gonna bleed or something. Puts it in the bathtub and starts
Isn't he like grossed out too? He's like, I remember
a
this
little
scene.
bit.
Yeah.
Yes, a little bit. Like he's treating it like it's a human being that he's cutting up, and he's so like, oh, like all that with it. But it's just a doll. He cuts it up and he throws it out. Now, his neighbor is played by Udo Kier.
Yeah. Great
Who's also a
casting,
kind Udo Kier. Come on.
Udo Kier.
But he's also a weird, creepy, kind of weird guy. But Udo Kier is also the manager of the building. And he's the direct neighbor, like they share a wall. He's very nosy and he listens in on the wall and he hears Kenneth sometimes fucking the doll and he hears the arguments and everything. And he starts to think that Kenneth is fighting with his girlfriend. So he becomes suspicious with him because he's literally yelling at this. Then he starts to hear a scuffle. He hears fighting. He hears a physical fight happening. And then Udo Kier looks out and he sees Kenneth dragging body parts out of, and now he's totally suspicious. But then he sees the same ad for the doll and he says, well, wait a minute. I remember this giant box coming in. I remember the delivery and I haven't heard another person's voice. So he starts to pass it off as maybe it is just a doll and my neighbor's just weird. Okay. Yeah. Eventually, he's acting weird. He gets himself fired. He has and Kenneth, which is really weird as well. A whole other thing. I'm not even get into that. He gets himself fired. He fights with Lisa and ends up kidnapping her and taking her home. Udo Kier now hears something and he uses the keys to get into the house. And holy shit, there's a girl tied up in his room. Now we're getting to the finale. I don't know. Do we totally want to spoil this?
Just spoil it at this point.
All right. Well, I mean, yeah. Well, actually, you know what? No, I'm not going to spoil the full end. But basically, he does kill the neighbor, and they have a fight. Yeah, it does have a great ending.
Yeah.
So she has learned that the doll, well, he was dressing the doll up as her, so that's what causes the fight. And he accidentally knocks her out and kidnaps her and takes her home. And now he's tying her up, and he has now blurred the line between her being real and her being the doll. Mm-hmm. And this is where I'll stop because this is where shit gets crazy. What's really good, what he's thinking in his head. And when you look back on the movie, you realize that there's something he's been planning the whole time. And it's just been in the background, but they didn't focus on it.
Yeah.
On what was happening. And she comes to the realization when she's sitting there tied up, she comes to the realization. And I honestly think it takes the audience a little longer than her to figure it out. Which is why I think it's such a great ending, because when you realize what he's doing, she's already picked up on it and she's been trying to get away because she's been staring at the wall.
Yeah.
and you haven't.
It's got a great
So,
ending.
yes, it's
I
one of
know
those
what it
few.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those few moments where a character is ahead of the audience,
Hmm.
and it works, and
Yeah.
it totally, totally works. You know,
It's so funny. You like just describing the movie. It
Mhm.
sounds so ridiculous, but
It does.
it sounds like it wouldn't be a good movie, but it is a good
Mhm.
movie.
Yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
movie. It's very dark. It's very creepy. It's very weird. He uses like this is also a time when at like they started using there was a lot of horror movies at the time that used S&M things in it.
Mm.
Like Urban Legend, you had Strangeland. This they use S&M props as a form of horror,
Yeah.
you know? So like when he first sets up the S&M swing, like the sex swing in his apartment, like, oh man, this guy's going to go to town on this doll, but he's actually yeah, that's what you
Yeah.
think at first. But then you realize that it's because he learned that Lisa likes to slow dance. She likes to waltz. So
Hmm.
he's actually using the sex swing to vertically hold the
And
doll up so he
practice.
can learn, yes, to
Yeah.
practice dancing,
Yeah.
So we're using these really weird, kind of creepy things in almost a normal way. And
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it even creepier that he doesn't see anything wrong with this. And
Yeah.
that's how over the edge this guy went real fast.
Yeah. It
You
is
know?
underrated, dude. You never hear anyone talk about this movie.
No, this movie completely disappeared, and I don't know why. It's
And
not
it's
even, it's a
funny.
Lionsgate movie. It's not even like it's a Weinstein movie because a lot of
Yeah.
Weinstein movies disappeared.
No, of
It's
course.
Lionsgate.
It's funny.
It's
This is the perfect Valentine. It doesn't take place on Valentine's Day, but I think out of all of our picks, this is the one that best suits Valentine's Day and the holiday. Like,
I
if
think
you're a
so.
horror fan, you and your significant other, and you want to watch like a horror, like you're tired of My Bloody Valentine, you're tired of Valentine, watch Love Object. Like, I
Yeah.
just think it works.
Mhm.
It's morbid enough, and it's almost like a black comedy too at
Totally.
times. Like
Yes.
you can't help but like chuckle at this guy
Mhm.
freaking out and yelling at this doll and treating it like a real person when it's
Yeah.
obviously a rubber thing.
And that's why I compare it to May because she does the same thing when
Yeah.
she's fighting with the doll.
And
She's
May's also
yelling at
got kind of like
yes.
some
Yeah.
black comedy in it where
I
it's like
would I would
dark
totally
comedy.
say anybody who likes May try to find Love Object and look for. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's on street. It's definitely not streaming anywhere.
Nah.
It might be on Amazon for
Or
like
YouTube. Maybe someone uploaded it to
yeah.
YouTube illegally, I'm sure. So it
Yeah,
is hard
but
to find.
this DVD, this is it. I've had this DVD for over 20 years. I
That's
love
where
it.
I saw it. That's how
Yep.
I saw it with you, that DVD.